All right, so welcome to the Palm Beach North podcast. I'm Noel Martinez, and today we have a very special guest who is leading the transformation of one of the county's premier events, the Cognizant Classic, which is held at the prestigious PGA National, which is poised to become a marquee stop on the PGA Tour. Joining us today is Todd Fleming. He is the new executive director. Todd has an impressive background in sports management. Can't wait for you to hear about it. This guy worked with the Miami Heat, the Dallas Cowboys, most recently served as senior VP of global sales at Legends, which we're going to hear a little bit about. And something that I'm very excited about is Todd is the new host of a new podcast coming out called Sports to Business. And this is going to be part of the Palm Beach North podcast family. This show is going to talk about how we connect sports and business. Todd's got so many great connections in that world. So we're excited to see the show. Todd, welcome. And thanks for being here, bud.
Noel, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start off with, I'm really excited about our ability to do a podcast together. I think we were just riffing on it a little bit. I'm really excited about the fact how we're going to be able to tell the story about how business actually gets done through live entertainment, and really how we open up for some opportunities for people to think about how can they get involved in the world of sports, so that way we can continue to develop talent and grow this community and the aspects of what we do for entertainment. So I'm really excited about it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh my goodness. Come on, you're the perfect guy for it. So Todd, I mentioned it, you've had a really cool career. You've worked for the Heat, the Yankees. I mean, you've done some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that. Tell us about your journey, how you got involved in sports.
Well, how much time do we have for this podcast?
All day if you want, as long as you want.
No, I would say, look, I've been extremely fortunate to be on the career path that I've been on. But I would say it's been my career path. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the most traditional way to go about things. But, I was fortunate to play basketball in college, played at Division III school in Northeastern Ohio, and that was great and fun. But I really started to think about what do you want to do? And what are you good at? And all I could really come up with is I really just enjoyed talking to people. And so I knew like an opportunity inside of commercial revenue maximization sales was going to be a pathway for me.
That's a fancy way to say sales, man.
I've gotten smarter as I've gotten older, and the vocab has increased a little bit. But so I knew that I wanted to be in front of people. And then I also knew that I took a step back and it says, where can you make the most money? And then where can you have the biggest kind of impact and influence over not only your career, but others? And it's really from a revenue background and from, how do you position yourself and generate revenue for big brands across the world? So I set out on that path. It just happened to be in the world of sports because I figured out that I could combine my passions with obviously the dreams that I have from a professional standpoint. So I started out actually in a different space, though. I helped launch an internet company in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a really, really fun process. It taught me a lot about how do you build rapport and interact with people. We were an e-com site that before e-com actually really existed. I didn't know that until several years later. But I was literally walking into some of the textile mills, Shaw Industry, Mohawk, up in Dalton, Georgia. And I was talking to individuals about, hey, put your products and let's market your products and it'll help you make more sales via this computer. And then I'd look at their desk. They had no computer, right? So really starting to figure out objectives and what made people tick and why did they make decisions in and around business. I got a real education of trying to go through that process in Atlanta. What happened is I also got an education in finance, and financial backing. So we put all of our eggs in one basket, which was SunTrust Bank at the time, which is now turned into Truist, I think.
It is Truist, right?
Yeah. And so they were going to be our financial backer for the second round, and they pulled their funds. And that's when I got an education of, oh my gosh, like business is real, because we went from 60 plus employees one day to 0 the next. So then I hightailed it back to Ohio, which is where I'm from, and got into contact with some of the professors at my school and started to explore the sports business opportunities that existed. I have a business degree, but I had a sports management background. And they knew of an opportunity in Cleveland with the Cavaliers, which this is, I want to make sure everybody understands, this is pre-LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers. So this was, I worked for a 17-win team, a 32-win team, and a 30-win team out of 82 games. Selling, trying to sell tickets. And so it was getting your teeth kicked in on a daily basis. But what it taught me was how to battle, how to think a little bit more strategically, how to be smart in your approach, and then really kind of take advantage of the leverage of, hey, there's an opportunity here when things get better, because sports are cyclical, a lot like business. When things get better, you're in prime position. So get in now, so that way you control the future for when things get better. And so ironically, it worked, because my third year there, or my third season there, we were in line to get the number 1 draft pick. And if you go back to 2002, 2003, there was this kid in Akron, Ohio that was talked about and was the second coming of basketball Jesus. And
I've heard of that guy before.
You've heard of that guy. I think he's still around. He may be taking the court here in a couple of days for Team USA. And so it was a really fun process to go through losing, but at the same time, every time you lost, you're going, my gosh, we have the leverage on the marketplace. So we ended up getting the number 1 draft pick. At the same time, I was exploring opportunities to get into management. I wanted to get into management for all the obvious reasons that you would think of, which is, to me, is I wanted to be on the other side. I wanted to help make decisions in and around, how do these brands operate? What are the products that we put forth? What are the experiences? How are we really tying that back to the objectives of our community, whether from a business standpoint or from a fandom standpoint? So the management side of that is really where my calling had started to get to. And then the backdrop of that was, I'm a point guard, so I like to dish and assist. I wanted to be in a situation where I could help impact the careers of others, which is, how do I help them learn and put them in the right positions to have success? So as we were getting LeBron, I was getting recruited to come to the Mecca, from a kid from Ohio, to get recruited to go to Miami, Florida, to work for the Miami Heat. None of that sounded horrible.
No.
And so I made the decision. The Heat took a chance on me and offered me a managerial position. And I took a chance of saying, I'm going to uproot everything that I know from being in Ohio, and I'm going to move to Miami, Florida. And I did that all during the transition of us getting the number 1 draft pick and actually drafting LeBron, and then watching him play his first game in Cleveland. So I matriculated south, and I was so happy that I did. Came down to the Miami Heat and oversaw a couple different staffs from a revenue generation standpoint. And that first year I was here, Riley had left the bench. Van Gundy had taken the seat. Spoelstra had come out of the video room and was on the bench for the very first time, and we had this young player named Dwayne Wade, who had just had a phenomenal run in the Final Four, but nobody knew who Dwayne Wade was going to be.
Yep.
That team ended up starting off 0-7. We ended 42-40 and made it to the second round of the playoffs. So what a great story to tell. And in a market like South Florida and Miami in particular, things were moving. But there was this little rumor starting to trick you through the office of, we're going to make a trade. We're going to make a trade. And I'm going, oh, this sounds fun, but why would we break this up? This is a young, fun team. Lamar Odom, Karan Butler. We had Skip to Mailou. We had Dwayne. So it was a lot of fun. But then the name emerged of who we were going after, which was Shaquille O'Neal. And that was life-altering change.
That must have been cool to be there.
Very cool. I shared with you, I think, when we were catching up first time in the marketplace, I literally went home, grabbed some underwear and my toothpaste and toothbrush, and went to the office and almost didn't leave for like 3 weeks. We had people making sales at all hours of the day, all financial levels, some small, some big. But ultimately what we were doing is we were selling ourselves, and our staff were selling themselves out of a job. So inventory management was something that was not necessarily on the back burner, but it wasn't prevalent each and every day. You were in this euphoria of making sales. I had a tough decision to make at that time. I had to look at 24 people that I had recruited from around the United States to come into a market like that, move in, trust in us that we were going to put them on the right career path, and then ultimately tell them that, hey, you did so well, we have no more seats, and we have to figure out where you go next. So literally had to tell 24 people that we have to go find your next job because we're out of a job here. I'm proud of the fact that we did that in a very transparent and open and honest way. We got almost half of the staff was able to move on to another role, either internally into another department or move on to another organization. And for those that decided not to, I think some of it was their decision, but it really is a moment for me from a managerial standpoint that I always look back on, not proud of it, the way that we managed it, but also proud at the same time that we did the right thing by people. Mm-hmm. I was in the process of evaluating, what do you do next, right? Do you stay here? You love this city. You're having a great time. Had met somebody at this point that was dating, and that was well on its way to turning into a marriage.
We're going to talk about her later.
Yeah. But I also had career aspirations and goals. And so I had defined for myself at that point, if I'm going to stay on the team side of the business, there's a couple things I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to work with kind of a player that helped drove leverage in the marketplace. Check that box. We had Dwayne, Shaquille at that point. Well, Dwayne, LeBron, Shaquille at that point. Wanted to work for a team that again won, that consistently won, because people think it's easy to sell in those scenarios. It's really not. When inventory is limited, price points are kind of fluctuating upwards most times in that scenario, and you have a marketplace that's rabid and needs this form of entertainment. That's not an easy kind of conversation to have, to say, well, here's what I have left. Doesn't matter how much you're willing to spend. This is what we have left. So that to me was a learning experience that I wanted to put myself into. And then Noel, what I wanted to do was really get into this world of city and state relocation and new building openings, which back in 2004, 2005, 2006, American sports had kind of gone through this in the 90s, like call it mid 90s, where we had built new venues, but not everybody had done it. And now you were coming up on kind of this second iteration of what buildings were going to be like. The hospitality experience, the premium experience had changed. The overall fan expectation had changed. So this whole city and state relocation and new building expansion was coming, and I wanted to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. I was getting recruited within the NBA to go to New York, New Jersey, and to work for the Nets on their move to Brooklyn, New York. I jumped at it, a big city of dreams. You know, to go do work in New York City was, to me, felt like the epitome of like, if you can do it here, you're something. So I jumped at the fact. I left Miami, had to go back to the department stores and buy winter clothes again, which didn't feel good. But I made my way up to New York, New Jersey, and started on this path of well, how do we bring a building out of the ground in Brooklyn? So now I would have checked off those two boxes. City and state relocation, even though moving from the Meadowlands to Brooklyn was a 6-mile move, it was an astronomical different way of thinking about economics, after like how do you live, and then ultimately the price points and the products and the experiential elements of what you can bring to basketball. Yep. And then it was a new building opening. So I loved it. I was having a great time there, learned a lot, opened an office in New York City for the Nets, and still had responsibilities on the Jersey side, and was going back and forth and living this kind of fast-paced life from a business standpoint that was really, really appealing. And the Nets, from an organizational standpoint, the individuals that I reported to, the president and CEO, and then the VP of sales, they were just what I would call stellar human beings that challenged you, but also put you in the best position to have success in a really unique and awkward time. But as consistent in my career, getting recruited again. My boss in Cleveland, who had become a mentor and a friend, had taken a role with the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys were in the midst.
I'm looking at you like, that's not real life. Like Cleveland Cavs with LeBron, you get to hang out with Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal. Now you go to Brooklyn. Yep. Now you're heading to Dallas to go hang out with the Cowboys. Like, that's crazy.
Now you know why I tell everybody I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do. And people ask me, like, how have you done it? And I said, well, quite honestly, I kept my foot out of my mouth as best as I could to be able to have these opportunities. So I end up going to Dallas. And this is where I would say where I really understood that I'm not, like, I like risk, calculated risk, but I like risk. What Jerry was trying to do, not only from the stadium, I mean, he was building 3 million square feet, which is the largest NFL stadium to be built, building a dome, and then ultimately the price points that we were going to be asking for the experiences not only included a PSL, the premium seat license. So you had to pay to have the right to buy your seats, but it gave you the ownership of it for 30 years, the control of it. And then the suites that we were building, we built over 300 suites in this building, in this marketplace, in a really odd time where, again, suites, this 20 plus type of individual, people were starting to think of, do I really need that quantity of tickets for even the 10, games that are in an NFL stadium? That feels like work. Well, we go out and build 300 of them. So now you go to the marketplace and you start to figure out, again, with the world's most valuable franchise, how do you then go market this? And so we start off on that path. Ironically, during that time frame, if people remember, from 2007, 2008, 2009, we had the economic downturn that happened. Fortunately, Florida, and I think Texas operate a lot alike, is the way that the economics and the way that the governments are kind of run each of those states. It's not that you're immune to the economic downturn, but you can weather it much stronger just because of the way that we operate. And some of that's the no state income tax, but some of it's just really how we empower business to continue to thrive. So we had to create different strategies and processes and techniques to how do we sell during this economic downturn, where people would traditionally be buying 6 seats and now they're buying 4. So we had to get tricky in kind of tricky is not the right word. We had to get sophisticated in how do we talk and get people to feel comfortable in this type of economic climate. How do they continue to move forward? During this time frame, there's a company, there's an agency that's starting to be formed. The Cowboys and Yankees were both opening stadiums at the same time. Jerry Jones had always done, since his ownership of the Cowboys, he had done food and beverage and merchandise in-house, created companies, divisions, ran it, controlled the end-to-end experience through those 2 services. And as the Yankees were opening their stadium and going through this process, their contracts in that space were up. And so we had some mutual partners in Goldman Sachs that were involved in both businesses that said, hey, to the Yankees, you should go talk to Jerry and his family about how he monetizes the star and how he controls some of the services on his own to increase the revenue pot for his organization. Yeah. That meeting ultimately turned into the formation of a company called Legends. And so Legends was an agency on the service side of the business where we opened with our ownership group of the New York Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys, and the associated families, and Goldman Sachs. So we had a 3-headed monster of an ownership structure. And the services that we took to market initially was from the food and beverage standpoint. So we were a caterer and concession and a merchandise. So we would acted more as like a retailer of merchandise.
For stadiums.
Stadiums and arenas.
All over the country?
The initial onset, when that business launched in 2008, and really when the stadiums opened in 2009, our 2 pieces of business was Yankee Stadium and Cowboy Stadium, which then eventually turned into AT&T Stadium. Now it's global, right? And we do everything from brick and mortar to retail to e-com to production worldwide across the globe inside of the culinary and merchandise standpoint. There was a revenue generation side that wanted to come. In the sponsorship world, outsourcing of those services to agencies had been kind of common practice for naming rights, founding partnerships, but it hadn't traditionally been done in the premium ticketing space or general ticketing space. With what we did during the Cowboys project, there was this desire to launch those services. But it was going to take some time to figure out the right pathway to do it. I was getting recruited once again to go back into the NBA. There was a gentleman that lives in our county who played basketball. Some people may know him as Michael Jordan.
I've heard of that guy too.
I've heard of him. I knew him as the epitome of what you wanted to be as a basketball player, and who you strive to emulate each and every day.
Oh yeah.
He was in the process. He was already minority owner of the Charlotte Bobcats, which became back to the Hornets. But he had the first right to acquire the organization if Bob Johnson ever took it to market. Well, Bob had told him and told the world that he was going to put it on the market. He was done. So they were bringing in a team to help on the revenue generation and the commercial side of the business to help stabilize the incomes that would provide really, I would say, a platform and a security that the business can thrive on its own. So I jumped at the chance to get into into work and, into bed with Michael Jordan from a business perspective.
Yeah, why? How could you not?
And the team that he had around him.
Mm-hmm.
But in the back of my mind, I always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit to me. And so I was having a blast in Charlotte. Little voice came back. My boss, let's follow the career path. Boss in Cleveland becomes a mentor friend, goes to work for the Dallas Cowboys. I go with.
Mm-hmm.
I leave. My boss then becomes one of the key executives at Legends as well. Friend mentor says, "Come on, you got to come back."
Yep.
And I said, "Well, hold on. I'm having a great time here. We're starting to turn the corner." Michael had acquired the team at this point, and it was fun to be around his people and get into their mindset of how do you monetize somebody that is untouchable? How do you monetize and really put them in the best possible position to have the success that they want? But the scarcity of access to them is what really drives, kind of all of the interest and why people would want to do business. How do you leave that? And again, somebody that's of that magnitude, if you do really good work, and you endear yourselves to them, what can they really do for you? But I had this entrepreneurial calling. I wanted to be part of a startup. I wanted to be part of how do you take on a global kind of strategy of how do you develop something. I made the decision to move back to Texas, and we launched Legends. And we launched Legends from the commercial side of it, which was premium ticketing, general ticketing, and then ultimately into the sponsorship and partnership space. And for a long time, it was a two-man office. And we came out of the gates, and it was amazing. I was maybe a little bit misguided in the fact of where this could go, how quickly. We came out and we had Levi Stadium. So the San Francisco 49ers were building a stadium. They hired us to be the entity that helped strategy process and then execute through people. And then very quickly after that, we won the Rose Bowl. And the Rose Bowl, which is a national historic landmark in the United States, was doing a renovation to modernize the facility, but also to make sure that the Rose Bowl, as part of the national championship turn, had the right premium inventory that we could that they could generate the revenue that they needed. So we get those two very, very quickly, and then I'm going, this is going to be great. What's next? And then you take a step back and you go, oh no, they don't renovate or build stadiums all the time. And we had kind of hit this run where those that were going to build from 2005 to 2010, 11 had done it. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of, what's next? So now you're grinding again. You're back into how do you keep the lights on? How do you make sure that you support people on the ground that are living now in Santa Clara and in Pasadena, and how do you help them? But also, how do you keep the business moving forward?
Are you ready to bring your ribbon cutting to the next level? Introducing the Ribbon Cutting Ceremony Recap Video, your key to unforgettable event marketing. We know that each business is unique, and that's why we offer tailored solutions, starting with our basic package, where you can commemorate your event with elegance even without the video. But why stop there? Our comprehensive event coverage and premier business launch packages include the game-changing recap video, capturing every vibrant moment of your grand opening, from the ribbon cutting to impactful speeches, all in a stunning 1-minute video. Best of all, your event's highlights won't just linger in the memories of those who attended. Through our partnership with the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, your video will be featured across multiple platforms. Expect to see your business shine on social media, in newsletters, and our website, and even the acclaimed Palm Beach North podcast. Don't let your special day fade away. Make it a monumental one with the Ribbon Cutting Ceremony Recap video and reach audiences beyond your wildest dreams. Ready to elevate your grand opening? For pricing and more details, email katie@pbnchamber.com or visit our website for more information. Make your event unforgettable.
And then ultimately where we got to is again, it all worked. And we got to a point where the next project that we got was Formula One was making its entryway back into the United States, and they were doing it in Austin, Texas. And us in Dallas, we had acquired a company at this point that was a market feasibility research company. So the combination of that data and analytics side of what projects can do, plus the sales acumen, we won that project from what is now known as Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. So
you're doing that for how long? How long have you? You're back to Legends now. How long are you at Legends?
So I would have came back to Legends in 2010. We get the 49ers in the Rose Bowl in 2010. And then we ink Circuit of the Americas in late 2011. So almost a year and a half of real business development, of figuring out what's next. And then we get another major project. And what we were going to do is sell PSLs and tickets for the totality of the race events, the motorsports events that were going to be at Circuit of the Americas, which was 4 events. It wasn't just Formula One. You leveraged that. That's what people really wanted. But we were selling PSLs in the totality of the venue. I moved 220 miles south. It became a 2-year engagement. And so I moved down and ran that project. What that did for us and Legends, and to a bigger extent for me, it really opened up international business. We sold PSLs to every state in the United States. Every state, Alaska and Hawaii, had bought a PSL. We sold into 20 plus countries that were rabid and excited about motorsports being in Americas. And that really sparked something in me that was, there's way more opportunity globally than what I really understood. And so I helped push Legends into this international business acumen and landscape that we have now, which is we pushed ourselves into the world of international football. We pushed ourselves into the ballet. We pushed ourselves into what the rest of the world really looks at sports to be, which is really unique. So I took on a project in Italy, in Rome, Italy, with AS Roma. They had been purchased by an American owner out of Boston, a guy named James Polata, who was also a minority owner of the Boston Celtics at the time.
Did you move there?
I ended up moving for a period of time. I traveled back and forth for about 7 to 8 years, and then lived there for about approximately a year. Okay. And loved the place.
Oh, I can only imagine.
My wife's Colombian, and so there's a little bit of the international kind of flavor and feel that resonates inside of our household. But I took it all in, and so we had a blast doing that. And then I've been fortunate to do business in Spain. I've been fortunate to do business in the UK and opened a stadium in Spain, and was a part of our Real Madrid engagement, and then led our FC Barcelona engagement, which again they're in renovating Camp Nou currently and are bringing a new stadium out of the ground. And so again, that's a really, really long way to talk about my path.
That's a crazy journey. Yeah. I mean, so many well-known, world-renowned brands, sports brands is crazy. Mm-hmm. So how do you end up here in Palm Beach Gardens? Like, someone calls you and say, "Hey, we've got this golf tournament down here. What do you think?"
Yeah, not too far off. It is so one of the projects that we had at Legends is I struck an engagement with the USGA for the 2023 U.S. Open. They looked at Los Angeles as a unique jumping off point for them to kind of reimagine the U.S. Open experience. Mm-hmm. And so we won that. So we started out on kind of the traditional things that we do, data and analytics, help set a site plan, sets the revenue marks, and then we took it to market and set astronomical revenue marks for a U.S. Open in 2023 with half the amount of people on course that they traditionally have. What it sparked in me was golf is the next frontier. This is all before kind of the current situation in the commentary of the Challenger League and all of the things that are involved. Golf was changing. And I think it was some of it was more spurred on from COVID than anything, is that live events took on a whole new meaning post-COVID and people's expectations were greater. I had met the PGA Tour during this whole process and actually had tried to sell them some services for Legends and lost, but it developed a really good friendship and some connectivity with a group inside of Championship Management, which controls the 4 to 5 events that the PGA Tour handles themselves. And we check in with each other from time to time. And I got a call in December of 2023, and I've shared this with you. I thought it was the happy holidays. So I approached the picking up of the phone that way, and it was very quickly, that's not what this call is. They said, "Have you seen the news?" And I said, "Yes, I've seen what you've done. What do you think?" And I said, "Think about what?" And they said, that event. And I said, well, I think it's really interesting that Cognizant is involved. I don't think people know who they are.
We got to talk about that, but go
how,
ahead.
How do we tell that story, or how are they choosing to tell their story? And then ultimately, why Palm Beach? And they went on to be very, very eloquent about the history of the event, how important it is to the county, and the individuals that have been supporting it for 52 years and 40 some odd years in our county, or in our area alone. But they also said it's at a moment of influx, meaning that there's a moment of transformation that needs to happen. And then we spent a lot of time talking about the strategic investment that the PGA Tour took in. Again, from my private equity background, from Goldman to Legends was acquired by a private equity firm called Sixth Street Capital out of San Francisco. So a little bit of knowledge inside of what like private equity talk and the way that they view the world. We talked a lot about what does that mean for the tour and really for live events, but ultimately for the world of golf moving forward and what we were going to do. And so I'd say after about 2 months, I got really, really excited. I had always thought personally that Florida would be in my future again. My wife and I love it. We met here, got married here, and loved it. I didn't think it would be this quick, but I really thought when I understood the totality of the opportunity, Noel, I said, this is a moment to take something that's got a tremendous amount of good bones, that's got a tremendous amount of good people, and it's got almost like a cult following. I mean that in all the positive ways. Yep. Of, man, this could be a lot of fun. And if there's just some little things that we can do to modernize the experience, to reimagine the structures, and to ultimately push and pull into this new era of what does it mean to attend a live event, the ramifications of that are going to be massive for our county and our area. But more importantly, we're going to be able to set the trends for what happens inside of the world of golf. And I think to a bigger extent to what happens in live events moving forward. So when you combine all of that, there's not many opportunities in the world of sport, the world of entertainment, the world of live entertainment that give you all of that. And that's appealing to me at this point in my working professional career. Is I like challenges. Again, I like risk. And I also want to be part of something that's transformative. And what we're doing right now at the PGA Tour inside of the world of golf with the support of this county is going to be really transformative.
So, it's the name's changed recently. So I want to talk a little bit about the Cognizant. And you're right. A lot of people don't know what the Cognizant is, right? So what are some of the challenges with coming with a title sponsor change, right? Because people still call it the wrong name.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they will for a long time. People are going to call it the Honda Classic by mistake.
No doubt.
Even though it's the Cognizant Classic now. So what are some of the challenges that come with that?
Yeah.
And what's it going to look like? Yeah. Like what's the future look like for the Cognizant Classic?
Yeah, look, I'd start off with the fact of Cognizant's an absolutely unreal brand and people to work with. They're not superimposing. They have expectations, but they're not superimposing in that. There's a lot of collaboration and dialogue that they like to have about what should we be doing? Again, they're not completely, they're representative in our everyday life, and we just don't even know that we're interacting with their technology or their platforms or their work, but they're also not present here day in and day out. So they're taking a lot of kind of listen and learn approach to what are you hearing, what are you seeing, what should we be doing moving forward? And then I think they're going to start to develop their initiatives of how do they really want to activate in this marketplace for the foreseeable future. They're on as our title partner through 2030, which I think provides a real nice security and a platform for us to build off of over the next 6 years. But what is it going to look like? I would say to those that have been coming for a long, long time and supporting us, we're not going to look too terribly different. When you look at PGA National and the footprint that we have, you can build where you can build, meaning from the structures that we want to build, there's certain areas that are already intrinsically built out or just lend themselves to this is where you build that. And so we're going to build in very similar places on 18, obviously at 17. We're going to try to get really kind of in tune with over the next several years, where do fans start to congregate more and more themselves, so that way we can think about future structures or future experiences that we can build elsewhere. But we're going to build in very similar places, just we're going to build it tighter. And what I mean by that is the demand over the last several years, we all know what's happened, is that the demand for the event has it's dwindled, right? And we can't run from that. That doesn't mean that people aren't supporting this, or that doesn't mean that the event is on hard times. It just means some of the experiences are no longer have the perceived value, right? So we have to then take a look at that and read data and figure out what do we do to bring forth different experiences that reinvigorate our fan base. And so what I mean by that is like the world kind of global hospitality buyer at this point, they don't have a need for 50 tickets, right? So you're going to see our structures. What I mean by tighter is that we're going to have that where that sweet spot is like 20 to 40 type structures. So where can we position those? Right. And I think we've got a really cool kind of plan of, again, building them in similar locations to what people have experienced in the past. But the tighter, what it allows us to do when you build tighter that way, Noel, is that we can get you closer to the action, whether that's a tee box, whether that's a green, whether that's a really important moment where a tee shot may land or somebody's going to hit an approach shot. We're really thinking about how can we bring people closer to the action without impeding play. Yep. But those are things that I think you're going to see as we roll out the 2025 iteration of the event. Now, the other aspect of that is, and again, the one comment that I get all the time is, what are you going to do at the Bear Trail? What are you going to do at 17?
Of course, people are going to ask that, yeah.
Oh, and as they should. Mm-hmm. I would say it's a vibe within a vibe, right? And I think it's the lifeblood of what we do outside of the volunteers and the people that actually help us deliver the event and put on the real experiences that people are having. The vibe that takes place at 17 is the lifeblood of this event. It's the place to be seen. It's where business is done. Yeah. It's where casual conversations. I'm sure there's been relationships and things that have happened at 17. It's a nice party. What we need to do is we need to just elevate that to what does it mean to have a party in 2025 and beyond. To me, that's sophistication. Like our county is about sophistication. That doesn't mean that low social consumption isn't going to happen, but let's do it in a sophisticated way, and let's do it in the Palm Beach way. And so you're still going to see a double-decker structure at that. We're not going to see kind of this stadium effect that you would see at 17 in the past. And that's done strategically for a couple of different reasons. One, the demand wasn't there for an entire kind of stadium structure. We may get back to that over the next series of years. But what it intrinsically has allowed us to do is it's allowed us to align the right experiences in and around that hole so that way the vibe stays and just gets maximized. Behind, I call it the backstop. So behind the tee box, it's still going to be a 2-story structure. Yep. I was very, very clear that we needed to have that. That gives us our moment. That's our iconic kind of structure. But we needed to infuse kind of new experiences inside of there. But so what it does is along the side where the pond, most that will be listening to this or watching this, along the pond, it allows us to then take some of those structures and pull out more areas for fans to come and get closer to the ropes. So it's not, I'm challenged with putting on a total fan experience. And that's really how I look through the lens of there's different ends and different experiences that we have to come through. They ultimately arrive into one tournament that everybody feels welcome and everybody has an opportunity to have their experience that they want. But how do we open up our iconic hole to more people? Right. And so there's a way to do that through some open space and getting them up to the ropes and still having the hospitality that we're used to that's there.
So I've asked you this question before and I loved the answer you gave me. So from another event standpoint, right? Like compare it to another event.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like? Right. So what can we compare it to?
Yeah. I've been asked that a couple different
times.
The
look, the feel.
So the look and the feel is going to look like Palm Beach. And what I mean by that is the one thing that really didn't work for me when I came for 2024's event, which was my first full week on the job was the event. The thing that didn't really work, not that it was bad, it just didn't work for me. And it didn't work for me because it didn't feel like we were representing our community the right way. The white tents are gone. There will still obviously be some variations of white there. But what I sent our creative department away to do is, as I said, where are the colors that we see in our everyday life? Where's the greens? Where's the teals? Where's the light blues? Where's the pinks, the peaches, the yellows?
In Palm Beach.
In Palm Beach, yeah. Right? And again, if you look around in our community, white's almost not prevalent on any structure. right? And again, the foliage and the things that we have in and around are all very colorful. The birds, the things that we have in our marketplace, there's all some aspect of color to it. We were missing that at our tournament. Who I thought did a really good job of it at last year's tournament, in 2024's version of the tournament, was the Discover Palm Beaches structure. In the Palm Beaches is our presenting partner.
Yeah.
Discover did a really phenomenal job for those that ventured out in between 17 and 10. Their structure, their ambiance that was open to the public, really, I think, to me, sparked something inside of the fact of, man, that's Palm Beach. They had the florals, they had the colors. There was people that had their social media moment. It was all of the things that we love about our county and our community in one kind of area. And I set our creative team out, look at what they were doing and look at the color combination that was there. How do we recreate that on our course?
So classy, sophisticated, like Kentucky Derby of golf.
Well, that's where I was going. And so you're
I've heard you say that before. So I'm trying to tee it up for you.
Yeah, you're going to see the colors. So we're going to have pinks, we're going to have oranges, we're going to have the teals, we're going to have the blues, we're going to have greens. You're going to see that on not only the things that are outside the ropes, but everything inside the ropes. So the players are going to get that experience too. So when they're looking at their tee backs or their yardage signage, it's all going to have this distinction of the context of Palm Beach, right? And our county. But yes, my vision for this, and again, people may laugh at it, but it really, to me, it's what I want us to strive to be, which is, it is Cannes Film Festival meets Milano Fashion Week meets Kentucky Derby. And what I told you about that is, those are moments that people go to, they get dressed up for, whatever the appropriate dress is for that, but it's a moment for them to show out. Right. I mean, it's the flamboyancy. It's our inner self of who we are that's really going to come out at those events. And by the way, they may not even know what movie's premiering. They may not know which runway show that they're at. And at the Kentucky Derby, that's 2.5 minutes of a race where you spend all day with a cocktail, whatever that may be, in your dress, in your hat, in your seersucker suit. Again, what that will mean for our tournament and our event will manifest itself, but that's the elevation I think that we've got to get to. It's prevalent in everything else that we do in our everyday lives and the other events that we go to and the community impact things that we show. But how does that manifest itself for the future of our event? I think that that's where we get through. And some of it's this color combination, some of it's new products and experiences, some of it's the food and beverage that we're going to serve moving forward and the new partnerships that we have there. But then it's all going to correlate into this. What is the new era of the vibe of coming to the Cognizant Classic?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I kind of set you up for that one because we've talked about that before, and I love that. I think it's so Palm Beach. It really goes with who we are.
Yeah.
Let's talk about community impact. You talked a little bit about that. The event has generated a ton of money for many, many, many organizations, millions of dollars for a lot of nonprofit organizations in the community. How are we going to continue to engage the local community? What's your plan for that?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the most important thing is that there's over 70 million and 300 organizations that have been impacted by this tournament.
That's crazy number, $70 million.
It's incredible. And I will tell you, before coming here today, the PGA Tour sends out, there's a leaderboard. There's a yearly long contest that's the community impact. I forget exactly what the title is, but we've jumped up. We're number 4 right now in the totality of all PGA Tour events, not just the ones that the PGA Tour controls on their own. Every PGA Tour event over the 42-week calendar year, we're number 4 right now. So we have a really good shot of continuing to lead in this category. But how are we going to engage moving forward? I want everybody to understand, first and foremost, I get this rumor all the time. You're not going to be charitable. You're not going to be impactful. And I challenge people on that. And I say, well, explain to me why. And I think there's this misnomer between a 501c3, which is what the event used to be in the co-sanctioned world before the PGA Tour took it over, and the PGA Tour Enterprises is a for-profit entity. But what I explained to everybody is that where that charitable impact comes from, really the finances, it comes from tournament proceeds, right? And so, but it starts with a mindset, and that mindset is these events are global. They're national and global mainly because of television. If we really boil it down to it, television And the visibility of these events on the tube is what makes them national and international brands. Mm-hmm. The reality of it is they're local and regional events. And we can't, and I say that with the most pride that you could potentially have.
It's a huge economic driver. I mean, $26 million, right?
It absolutely, and can grow. Yep. And so to me, it's like if we are not being impactful with our finances, if we're not being impactful with our time, if we're not being a good steward of what does that mean in our marketplace, we're not going to have success at all. But the economics of how this works are the more tournament revenue that we have produces more tournament proceeds that allow us to continue to make the impact in the marketplace. I have a wonderful partner, Children's Healthcare Charities, which again was the entity that owned and operated the event previously. We're in a contract with them and happy to do it for 5 years, where there is a significant amount of money that we will help generate together. And then ultimately, how do we appropriately disperse back into the marketplace to make the impact that's needed in this community. But we're not going to stop there, right? We have a community impact department, an individual that's supported not only with CHC personnel and their entities, but also the PGA Tour has a whole entire division that looks and focuses on this for us each and every day. So there is a multitude of conversations of how are we going to continue that impact, but we need to do it in several different ways. And this is where I challenge Cognizant a lot, and they're very receptive to it. Healthcare, children's healthcare in particular, is a key pillar for what they're about from their foundation and their initiatives worldwide. Check the box. We're aligned in that. That's what we've always been about. We will always continue to be about that. But the other things that Cognizant brings to the table as a technology AI firm is STEM initiatives. So how do we get bigger and more impactful or more influence in our marketplace in and around STEM? What are the key initiatives? What are the organizations that are doing STEM activities? And how do we start to bolster them with things that we can do? Next week we're doing a community event with the Edna Runner.
Yep. Great organization.
What a story, yep. Right? What a story, and what a unique individual that she was to start this.
Force,
and
absolute
now,
force.
And now, ultimately, the individuals that are challenged to carry on her legacy and her tradition through what she's created. We're going to go there next week. Obviously, they were a grant recipient of us. We're going to award them with obviously that grant during that time frame, and we're going to do a STEM initiative. Cognizant's flying in for that.
That's awesome.
Cognizant's coming in and representatives from Cognizant, they're leading it. So they're bringing their STEM educational inside of the world of golf, and we're going to do those types of initiatives. But we're looking for other opportunities. Where can we do that? Obviously, I was with our partner, the First Tee, yesterday. They do a lot of STEM. So I think you're going to start to see those types of scenarios and those initiatives come to the forefront. The other thing that I always really like to talk about, and again, it's not only what we need to look like our community during tournament week, we need to be involved and look like and support what our county and our community looks like outside the ropes for the other 11 months outside the year. So that's the DE&I aspect of where we need to lean into. And Cognizant this is a big initiative for them as well, headquartered in Americas, but the majority of their C-level suite and ownership group are from India descent. Right. So diversity and inclusion are big aspects for them. Right. And equity is a big thing. So how do we start to broaden what we do without losing the North Star of children's healthcare and healthcare consistently being at the forefront of what we do? But how do you tie all of that together into initiatives? And that's what we're going to be about moving forward. And what I've challenged them to do, too, is they're an AI firm. I don't know much about AI, but I know that it's smarter than me.
They're way smarter than me, too.
So how do you see around the corner? And how do you start to pick up on the trends of what some of the initiatives may be inside of our county? So that way we're not being reactionary to them. We can lead with our influence and in the right scenarios, our finances, to make sure that we're always staying on the forefront for what matters in our community. So to me, I want people to understand, you heard me just say, it is the North Star for what we do, and we do not exist if we don't have the right volunteers helping us deliver, and if we're not taking the tournament proceeds and making an impact inside of our community, we won't exist.
That's great to hear. All right, let's change it up a little bit.
All right.
I know you're a big family guy. I've heard you talk about your boys.
Yeah.
We talked about your Colombian wife that you met down here in Miami. let's talk about your family.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, I'm fortunate. I've got a loving wife who puts up with my nonsense all the time. And I don't know if that's just her Colombian roots or if I just struck gold. I think it's probably a combination of the both. But my wife, Maria, is the saint of our family. She immigrant from Colombia. Worked her way through the system, went through asylum, and became a citizen in 2014, and she's ultra proud of that. But I think she's the example inside of our family that I think all three of our boys really kind of mimic. Is that I started to drag her all over the United States for work and didn't let her finish school. When our youngest was started into kindergarten, she went back to school and ended up getting a teaching degree from the University of Texas. And so was the first individual in her family to graduate from college and university. So she is the example for all of us. So she was a bilingual school teacher for several years. And then, like most in that space, some of the administrative and the issues that go on, she came home one day and said, I need to make a change. She didn't go too far away from the educational space. She works for a company called Imagine Learning, which is an online ed tech company that supports school districts as well as teachers with curriculum and kind of those types of worksheets and things that can make life easier for people in the classroom. So she supports the entire Northeast. So again, we moved to Florida, but she supports everything from Delaware, Rhode Island, Delaware, all the way up to Maine, and everybody that's out there selling and delivering in that behalf. So she's really excited about that and gets a chance to be back in kind of more of an environment that I would say has got a little bit of the Latin flavor and Latin feel to it. So
we need a little more up here.
It's coming. But so then we're fortunate. We have three boys.
Who follow their dad's footsteps, right? They all play basketball.
They all
two of the three.
Two of the three do. The oldest one, who is 24, he's following in my footsteps in regards to the work aspect of life. He graduated from the Ohio State University in 2022. And he immediately got a job working for Georgia Tech University in the athletic department. So where my life started, my professional life started in Atlanta, his did as well. And we were both getting our teeth kicked in Atlanta because Georgia Tech athletics is, it could use some help. But he had a great experience there. As we were moving for this job, he was moving back into Texas to Dallas, and he took a role with the Big 12. And here's where it gets even creepier in all the fun ways. The Big 12 commissioner was the president and CEO of the Nets when I was there.
Of course. It's the only way we're all connected.
The building where he is working and where they're going to be running this Big 12 engagement and project out of is Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium.
That's cool.
So in an ironic way, it's like his path is very eerily similar to mine. So proud of him in that regard, but he was a football player. And then my younger two, Devin is the oldest. Zach just turned 17 on the 5th, basketball player. And then Ty, his 14 will be 15 in November. He's a basketball player, but is becoming a really avid fisherman too. He's
in the right place.
He's plucking some nice fish right off the beach. And I told him, I was like, you got to get really in tune with what we can keep and when, because we're going to eat a lot of fish. But they're both basketball players, and they've integrated into their new lifestyle and new community pretty seamlessly. You helped me in regards to getting ingrained into the basketball community pretty quickly. And the kids made the decision they wanted to go to Jupiter High School.
It's a great school.
Unbelievable school.
They got an unbelievable principal, great coaching staff. We talked about basketball.
Yeah.
And so I've got some friends there.
And so they're already ingrained in the team. And so I would have moved in February and kind of did a couple trips back, and my family would have came over a couple times in the transition, but they showed up in June, and I don't think we've been in our house on a weekend since then because basketball's taking place.
Well, I was going to say, because you're outside enjoying Palm Beach.
No, I wish I was outside. If you notice, I don't have a really good tan just yet. But no, I've been in a basketball gym almost every weekend, which is great. But but the team is really good. Coaching staff's great, and they've challenged, accepted, and pushed our two boys that are left in the house pretty nicely. So having a blast.
Well, I'm excited to have you guys here. I know, you and I met before you guys moved here, and I was telling you, you are going to love it.
Oh, yeah.
Your boys are going to love it. This is just such an amazing place.
You were a prophet. So we are certainly doing that for sure.
Well, hey, let's talk about this podcast, man. We've got to talk about this because we got to start wrapping things up here. Okay. So brand new podcast coming out, Sports to Business. Part of the Palm Beach North network. We've been talking about some more podcasts that are going to be coming out. Tell me about it. What's your goal with this pod? What's the show going to be all about?
Well, the show I think is going to be about is like, how do you, because I think there's a little bit of a misnomer about sports and business. Like, how do you do it? How do you get involved? Who's involved? What are the pathways? And overall, like, what is just the impact that the business has on actually what you see happening on the court, on the field, on the pitch, whatever it may be. So I think when you and I were discussing, like, how do we do this? I think the thing that really started to resonate in my mind was we get to pull back the veil a little bit. And again, it's not all pretty at all the times. And again, but it's going to provide an opportunity for people to truly understand what actually goes into running an organization, running a team, putting on an event, and all of the different avenues and pathways that people can participate. And so I think I get excited about the fact of, like, we get to tell a story in a real way with real people that are actually living this or help develop this industry for what it means today. But we also hopefully get a chance to show the youth in our community and the youth in this state. And again, the reach of what these podcasts actually do. I mean, it's wide and far of the reach of this. Hopefully it makes an impact on somebody that says, I didn't think I had an opportunity in this world. I now have an opportunity, and I now have a little bit of an understanding of how I can go about it. So that's what I'm really, really excited about.
And who can we expect to be on this podcast? Like, what kind of people? Like, is it sports executives, like sports business executives, maybe some players here and there?
Yeah, I think we're gonna run the gamut. And so I think, again, sticking with the business theme, I think somewhat early on we're gonna try to cover the basis of what does it mean to be in the sports entertainment business. So again, I'm gonna go deep into my well, and I'm gonna ask for a lot of favors from people to come on. But I mean, you're gonna see people from the NFL, you're gonna see people from the NBA, you'll see people from international, what I call major global events. You're going to see people not only just from the revenue commercialization side of it, you're going to see from the service, the operations, the impact. I'm going to try to cover the whole gamut, but I don't want to limit it just to that, because there's this whole other side to it, which is really important, which is those that volunteer. And why do you volunteer? Why do you decide to give up your time for the operational side of our business? But then there's also the brands. The brand side of this, of like, why do you make a decision to enter into a multi-year engagement at significant dollars as a brand and use sports as a platform to further the awareness and business development for your business? So I think we're going to try to cover as much of that as we can, as quickly as we can, with the right people. And you're going to see people that are newer in their career, and you're going to see people that are really well established and potentially C-level executives from a global perspective that we can bring on, so that way we're getting a really diverse thought process and diverse background, so that we can tell the right story of what does it mean to be in the sports entertainment business.
Well, I'm excited about it. I know you and I have been talking about this for a while. I'm excited to see that it's finally taken off, and we're going to get the ball rolling on this. You're going to be a great host. I mean, that's going to be, I couldn't think of a better partner for that kind of show. Anything you want to end with on the Cognizant? I mean, can we go out and buy tickets yet? Let's talk about it. Come on.
So we are on sale for the hospitality right now. So we're taking again, another strategic approach here, where we're going to be phasing through the new experiences, so that way people can understand what they are, make a rational decision for them. But you're going to see a pretty standard timeline for when ticketing will go on sale. So it'll be sometime this fall, early winter, that we'll put ticketing on sale. And again, everything to me is being I'm trying to be thoughtful about everything that we do from a timing standpoint, so that we're not coinciding with holidays and people have to make decisions about what to do. But it's also, again, trying to make sure that we're rolling things out so that people understand the color scheme and the new kind of experiences and how that all portrays into the fan experience that they want. So we'll be on sale with all general ticketing and fan ticketing for whether that's for the week that if you want to come, we'd love to have you for the week or for the individual days as we get to the fall. But the premium hospitality is on sale now. Obviously, you can go on our website. You can research some of that. We rolled it out about 2-3 hours ago, the first 3 products and some of the rebrand color that's out there.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. And so if you're interested in that, there's a place for you on our website to inquire more. We'll get back to you within 24 hours.
Well, man, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. Really excited about the new podcast, the new partnership we have here with the Palm Beach North Network. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys, all you do. Don't forget to like, share, follow, tell all your friends, and tell them about the new podcast coming out, Sports to Business, which is going to be another great show. See you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.